Good evening, Embers. Every night we must return to our slumber in order to rest and arise a stronger and better person than we were the day prior. Lay back, get warm, and relax. Welcome to Back to Ashes, a playlist that will allow you to drift off into the sweet embrace of slumber. Tonight's topic are 9 true stalker stories, set to the sweet ambience of rainfall. Let's get started, shall we? It all started in high school. I was a naive, shy, and awkward 14-year-old when I asked this one guy to our school's Sadie Hawkins dance. I knew him from a mutual friend of ours, but we really didn't talk. All I knew is that we both liked anime and manga, and that he was kind of quiet most of the time. So I wanted to be nice, and I asked him out to the dance. That was mistake number 1 that started the years of torment. He said yes, and we agreed that we would just meet at the dance with the rest of our friends. A few hours later, I get a message on Facebook from him, and it's a long message telling me that he always had a crush on me, that I was beautiful, and that he couldn't compare my beauty to anything else because he considered that an insult to how beautiful I was. It was pretty cringy, but at the end of it, he asked if I would be his girlfriend. I was uncomfortable after reading the entire message, but again, being the shy and awkward 14-year-old that I was, I told him yes. Mistake number 2. He was ecstatic. He asked to call me that night and asked for my phone number, and I gave it to him. Mistake number 3. He calls me later that night, and I learned a lot of things that I did not want to know. One of the major things was that this guy was a massive crybaby. I'm not trying to say that men that cry are weak, but this guy would cry at everything and would always play the victim. Felt like all his friends didn't like him? Cry. No girls other than me would love him? Cry. Teacher failed all of his assignments even though he openly admitted he didn't want to do any of the work? Cry. The list goes on, but I'll get to more things later. I also learned that night that he had a foot fetish. Now that I was his girlfriend, he was going to do so many things to my feet. Again, not trying to shame anyone, but as a 14-year-old who didn't like showing off part of my body, I was uncomfortable. And when I went silent for a little bit, guess what he did? Cry. Because I thought he was a freak. His words, not mine. I told him no, I didn't think that, though I was starting to. He instantly cheered up. He continued to call me every night, and the conversations usually were the same as the first night he called until the night of the dance. At the dance, he mentioned he never had his first kiss and how sad he was. I already had my first kiss at this point, and I'm so glad he wasn't it. I kissed him at the dance just to get it over with. However, throughout the night, he would try to kiss me even more, and even tried shoving his tongue in my mouth. It got so bad that a teacher had to pull us apart. Of course, he goes off to sulk and cry. After the dance, I get a text from him saying how magical I made the night for him. That the kiss was delicious. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. And how the stupid teacher didn't understand our love. Again, not exaggerating. I was feeling pretty sick to my stomach at this point and wanted to break up with this guy, but I stayed a little bit longer. Mistake number 4. 2 days later, he asked me out on a date to the movies. Stupidly, I said yes, and he asked if one of his best friends could come, and if I could bring one of my best friends, since his friend found her attractive and wanted her to be his girlfriend. I told them both no because he wasn't her type, and in all honesty, she hated him. They keep pushing me to bring her, but I kept telling them no. His best friend calls me killjoy cunt, and he did this usual thing of crying because he didn't get what he wanted. We go to the Lorax that night, and his friend sits behind us. The second the lights go out, he turns my head and starts kissing me and pushing his tongue in my mouth. I tried to push him away because I was not going to let him do that to me the entire movie. Again, his friend is right behind us, and he keeps trying to kiss me. The movie ends, and when I get home, he sends me a text saying he was depressed, and a picture of my feet would make him feel better. I told him no, and he threatened to kill himself, and it would be all my fault because I didn't send him a photo. Horrified at how fast he snapped, I sent him a photo. The next night, he asked if I had been naughty lately. Knowing where this was leading to, I told him no. He then starts crying about how I was cheating on him and that I had been being naughty with other people. And again, he threatened to kill himself. I tried to calm him down by telling him that I was a virgin and was not a sexual person at all. He suddenly, as if on a dime, stops his fit and asks if we could just completely forget about what just happened. I tried telling him that what he did was incredibly inappropriate and was about to tell him to leave me alone, but he pulls the victim card again and starts crying. During the crying, he asked for another picture of my feet to calm him down. Scared he was going to snap again, I sent him another picture. This continued for a few more days until he would try and message me whenever I was busy at school, babysitting, volunteer work, etc., accusing me of cheating. Tell him what was going on, him saying sorry and playing the victim, and asking for pictures of my feet to calm him down. I eventually had enough, and after 2 weeks of dating him, broke off the relationship. He cried, of course, and begged that we at least stay friends. The school year was ending, and he said he was transferring to a new school, so I figured I would never see him again. Boy, was I wrong. Beginning of the school year, he would message me, and when I didn't respond, cry and threaten to kill himself. After a while, I just started to ignore the messages and threaten to call the police if he didn't stop messaging me. Thought he would have stopped after that, right? Wrong. Every year up until I turned 21, he would message me random things at random times. For example, "Hey, my friend, we're friends, right? Can you send me a pic of your feet? I miss you. I'll leave you alone if you want me to. I'm pathetic, aren't I?" And so much more. And each time I ignored him and finally blocked him on every platform he tried to contact me on. Fast forward to 21. I'm in college, a ways away from my town and from him, and have a boyfriend. I get a notification from Instagram saying he started following my profile. I quickly block him, and not even 5 minutes later, I get a message from Facebook from a random profile I didn't know. The message read, "Why did you block me on Instagram?" I lost it. I sent him a long message telling him if he contacted me in any way, shape, or form, I would get a restraining order, and told him how damaging that would be to his reputation and his future career. Again, he played the victim and told me that he couldn't believe he fell for a liberal bitch like me, and to never contact him again. Never heard from him again, and good riddance. A few months later, I get a message from a girl who used to date him as well. She told me he used to threaten to kill himself and cry if she told him she ever left him. I need some help. This has been going on for almost a year, and I have no idea who this person is. It started off with a profile on Snapchat, adding me by my username. Naturally, I was curious and accepted it because the name just looked really familiar. Maybe a week later, this girl messaged me on Snap. I opened it and boom, dick pic. Of course, I'm like, ugh, to hell with you, and block them. Then, 3 days later, I get another random girl's name adding me. Okay, can't be the same person, can it? Of course, my curiosity got the better of me, and I accepted the request. Then they send me a long message saying they go to the same school as me, and they've seen me on campus, but they're too shy to say anything. I go to a private professional school to get my master's degree in biomedical science. No one has time for this kind of high school bullshit, so I don't believe they go to my school at all, but I really don't know. Then I start asking if this is the same person that sent me a dick pic. They say it's the same person and they apologize for sending it. I was high and drunk and I shouldn't have done it. But then they started trying to sext me. So at this point I got fed up. They're giving me little details about outfits I've worn. They're sending me screenshots of my pictures that I have on Instagram. They're messaging people that I know, taking screenshots of my sister's stories on Instagram, using multiple fake accounts to harass me and the people I know. The list goes on. So my question is, what in the hell do I even do? Does anyone know how to find out who this person is if I give you one of their most recent fake usernames on Instagram? The more this stuff happens, the more paranoid I'm getting. What if I'm somehow interacting with this person in real life, but I just don't know it? This is from 5 to 6 years ago. I live in the Midwest and I love anime and manga. I was really interested in heading to a con, so 2 of my girlfriends decided to go with me to one of the larger anime cons in the area. We arrived, and at first, it was a lot of fun. However, I soon met a man who was overly creepy and made my time unbearable. I can't reveal too much about it, but he was apparently a guest to this convention and has some sort of YouTube career. He doesn't even talk about anime or manga, so I thought his presence at the con was weird. I would have said something long ago, but the group he was a part of has a rabid fan base that is in the past defended a rapist, so I have been fearful of the repercussions of telling my story. I was walking in the convention when he spotted me, and he instantly seemed to light up and rushed over to me. I was very nervous. I never thought I was much to look at, so his interest seemed weird to me. He tried to make some sort of small talk, like asking if I like to play cosplay. I am sort of round, but am very proud of my legs, so I jokingly said, if I cosplayed, I could probably be the green M&M. He seemed to really like that idea and kept pressing. The way he looked and leered made me very uncomfortable. I made an excuse and joined my friends and walked away from the creek in the tiny hat. I wish that was the end. But throughout the 3 days, he would continually try to find me and talk to me. What made it worse was the fact that he had his girlfriend at the time with him. She seemed busy, and he tried to sneak off while she was busy with other things to try and flirt with me, but it always felt uncomfortable. In fact, I tried to bring her up, saying wouldn't she be upset that he was flirting with me? And he said he could convince his girlfriend to be okay with it, and then called her Lady Boy, which I found weird. The whole situation felt so disgusting, and every time he found me and rushed over to talk, I felt like I wanted to crawl into a hole and die. Maybe this isn't stalking per se, but he made me feel so uncomfortable. I had to say something. After this convention, I looked him up and found out he goes to the 3 major conventions in my area. So for my own peace of mind, I don't go anymore. So, this happened 3 months ago. I was out hiking with my friend. I'm not going to disclaim her real name for privacy, so let's call her Amy. Anyways, me and Amy set off on our travels at 6 a.m. We travel by public transport. We got the 6:35 bus to our destination. The bus stop was empty for the first 10 minutes or so, then a man joined. He was looking at the same timetable as us, so we knew he was getting on the same bus. He sat on the bench opposite of us and started reading a book. I felt strange, as in I knew something was up. I glanced at the man and he would catch my glare and just stare. It wasn't a normal stare. It was a sinister stare. I pulled out my phone and texted Amy to check it out. I didn't want to speak out loud, so he knew I was talking about him. As soon as Amy's phone pinged, the man looked at us. He turns to Amy and asks, "Who was that texting you?" He said it in a way as if to say, "I already know." She nervously replies back, "Oh, it's my dad asking if I got here all right." He squinted his eyes, then continued reading. He started mumbling stuff to himself in a different language. I think it was Polish, but I'm not 100% sure. The bus was due in 5 minutes by this time, so me and Amy got our stuff together, ready to get on. We stand up and step towards the road where the bus pulls up. The man also stands up and stands literally a foot off of me. I can feel his breath on my neck. I felt so uncomfortable. I see the bus come along. We boarded the bus and sat in the back. The man sits at the very front of the seats facing backwards. He put his book away and stared at me. He stared at me even when I saw him. His glance didn't leave me. Our stop was the next one, so we walked to the driver's section of the bus and waited. The bus pulled up and we left. The man stayed on. We thought we wouldn't see him again. We were so wrong. Later that evening, we had stopped on our hike to have lunch. We were sat on a large rock at the top of a hill with forest surrounding us. We were gossiping and laughing till Amy noticed someone walking up the path towards us. "Look," she said, "isn't that the man from the bus?" I turned around and my heart sank. "Yes," I replied. "Why is he here? He stayed on the bus as we got off. How does he know we would be here?" Amy gave me a scared and confused look and shrugged nervously. We decided to pack up our stuff and head back to the bus station to go home. We were sat at the station and the bus arrived. We got on the bus. The man was nowhere in sight last time we saw him. He was on the hike track about 3 miles from here. He walked past us in the opposite direction. So we go for a few stops when the bus stops and someone gets on. Thinking nothing of it, we continue our conversation when a hand touches my shoulder. "Hey." I turn around to see that creepy man standing there touching my freaking shoulder. What the hell? I thought to myself. How? He was miles behind us. How has he got that far in this short time? It's impossible. Yes? Can I help you?" I kindly replied. "No, I just wanted to feel you." Immediately creeped out, I stepped up and complained to the driver about what was just said. The driver stops the bus and asks the man to leave. The man gets off, staring at me viciously as he passes me. I sat back down and didn't say a single word all the bus journey back home. We got off the bus and Amy asks if I'm okay and tells me I'm looking pale. That was strange, wasn't it? I asked Amy for reassurance that I wasn't over-exaggerating. "Hell yeah, it was," she instantly responded. We walked back to Amy's and sat in her room for an hour or two. We watched a movie and chatted. Time was getting on and I had to leave so her and her family could have lunch. I walked the short distance home and locked my door behind me. I never usually lock my door, but I was so creeped out. I chucked some lunch in and popped the TV on whilst I ran a bath. I had my lunch and then went in the bath. I like to apply a face mask and lay in the bath for ages. So I'm laying there relaxing when I start getting a very eerie feeling. I washed my face mask off and quickly washed my hair and jumped out of the bath. I went to my bedroom to put my pajamas on, then went and turned the TV off downstairs and made sure all the windows and doors were locked. I lay in my bed and I keep thinking I can hear someone outside my home, but brush it off as a stray dog or other animal. I eventually fell asleep and wake up suddenly during the night. I checked my alarm and it was 3:20 a.m. I don't usually wake up during the night, so I found this a little odd. I sat up and turned my lamp on. I then heard loud footsteps pacing around my house. I got out of bed and checked out my bedroom window and couldn't see nothing, so I went downstairs, keeping the downstairs lights off, and peeked through the blinds to the front of the house. I saw a person standing there staring at my bedroom window. I couldn't make out the face. I continued watching as the person paced up and down my driveway. Who could this be? I thought to myself. I had many thoughts like this. Is this person drunk? Is this an escape from the asylum up the road? I continued watching for a good 15 minutes until they turned around to walk away, stopped at my gate, and it's like they turned and looked straight at me. The streetlight was shining on the face, and I recognized the person. It was the man from the bus. What in the hell? I thought to myself. How does he know where I live? The man left my driveway and walked off. I went back to bed and texted Amy the news in the morning. Oh my effing God, was her reply. We planned to meet for lunch that day. Lunchtime comes around and we meet at a cafe on the main street. As we're chatting, I noticed the man from the bus on the opposite side of the road walking backwards and forwards down the road, slowing down and staring directly at me as he passes us. I turned to Amy and said, "What the hell, man? He's there again." He seemed to be everywhere I was that day. I got my nails done. He was there, pacing around. I went grocery shopping. He was there. I started feeling very uncomfortable by this point and went to my local police station to report him. I was told there was nothing they can do as he hadn't actually harmed me in any way, but they did log it down. I left feeling pretty crappy as the police basically turned me away. The next few days got worse and worse. I would see him everywhere I was. I would get woken in the middle of the night to him beating on my door yelling, "Let me in. He loves me. We were meant for each other." And all that other bunch of rubbish. My neighbors must have phoned the police one night as I seen blue lights and heard the man yelling, "I live here. She's my love," as the police arrest him for disturbance. I went down and spoke to an officer and told them I had reported the man already to your department and I hoped they could do something now. All they did was warn the man to stay away. There wasn't much they could do. It was quiet for a week or two, then I started getting calls from an unknown number. I answered the first few times as I didn't know who it was, and all I heard was deep, heavy breathing down the phone. I hung up and eventually stopped answering. The calls became constant. I had 54 missed calls within 20 minutes. I went to the police station to report this, and I said I think it's the man who's been stalking me. They had to log it as a different case as we couldn't prove it was him with the calls being from an unknown number. I didn't know how he got my number or why he had such an obsession with me, but I hated it. The calls became worse, where it would be 70 to 90 missed calls in 20 minutes. There would be days where my phone would not stop ringing, and I would have to turn it off. I eventually changed my number and got no more calls. It's about 8 weeks now, and I haven't seen the man, but I have heard weird noises from outside late at night. Nothing has happened yet so far. I will update if anything does happen and if he returns. My roommate and I used to live in Virginia about 20 minutes from her mom's apartment, and we used to dog sit for her all the time. One night, after we dropped the dogs off, we stopped at the Wells Fargo near our apartment so my roommate could deposit the money her mom had given her for watching the dogs. It was probably around 11 at night. As we were about to pull into our complex, she said, "That car is following us." I asked which car she meant, and she said to look behind us. Sure enough, there was a black car following us down the road. She turned on her turn signal, and so did the black car. I asked her how long he'd been there, and she said he'd been following us since we'd left her mom's house. Not only was I freaked out, but I was thoroughly pissed. I yelled at her and demanded to know why she hadn't said something sooner, and she said she hadn't wanted to scare me. I asked her if he followed us through Wells Fargo, and she said he did. He pulled up behind us while she deposited money at the ATM and pulled through after us without depositing anything or stopping. After calling her an idiot for not telling me until we were home, I told her to turn right after the gate at our complex instead of left, because our apartment was one of the first on the end. It was bad enough that he knew what complex we were in. He didn't need to see which apartment we were in. She turned right, and I told her to floor it. We drove through the complex as fast as we could and lost him near the back of the complex. We parked across the street from our apartment, turned off the car, and crouched down low to see if he would drive by again. We didn't see him, but we also didn't feel safe. We ran inside as quickly as we could to grab some blankets and pillows, the can of pepper spray we had, and I grabbed my knife. We got back in the car, and I called my ex-boyfriend in a panic, asking him what else we could do. My roommate says she'd drive us to the movie theater she worked at because it wouldn't close for a few hours, and there would still be people in the parking lot. My ex kept asking me questions about the car that I couldn't answer, so I gave my roommate the phone. She described the car to the best of her ability, and then stopped mid-sentence when we got onto the highway. He was following us again. My ex asked if she was certain it was the same car, and she said it had to be. She never saw the license plate, but she recognized the body and the headlights, and the shape of the man who was driving it. She gave me back the phone and called her manager at work to tell him we were going to be coming by and what was going on. She managed to get a few cars ahead of the black car and got in the parking lot. She parked in the back before anyone else could pull in, but we didn't see the black car. One of her coworkers came outside and parked next to us to wait while my roommate called the cops. My ex promised we'd be okay and that he would have been there if he could, and that if anything else happened to call him so we could talk to his sergeant about leaving for the weekend to check on us. He's in the Army and was on base a few hours away from us. The police said that since we didn't have the plate number, there was nothing they could do. But when we told him where we lived, they said there was going to be a few officers there on patrol that night anyway. Since he couldn't tell whether or not he'd followed us into the parking lot, they told us just to go home. We ended up sleeping in the car in a Walmart parking lot and didn't come home until the next night. We never saw that black car again. I was at the local grocery store I visit weekly to shop for food. I normally spend $100 to $200 a week on food for family and my family, so I always leave with a full cart. I'm standing in the checkout line minding my own business when a tall man, I'd guess early 40s, approached me and complimented my hair. "Your hair is gorgeous." Loud enough for everyone within a 20-foot radius to hear. Now, I appreciate a compliment as much as the next girl, but it was a little obnoxious to say the least. I thanked him politely and redirected my attention to my cart, where I awkwardly started organizing the items, in hopes that the 15 pairs of eyes now staring in my direction would look elsewhere. Unfortunately, Loudmouth didn't take the hint. He started asking rapid-fire questions and statements, barely pausing for me to get a word in edgewise before the next sentence would spill out of his mouth. This is when it gets really awkward. As if it wasn't weird enough, he asks if I want to go out with him sometime, maybe tonight after I put my groceries away. He could come to my house and help me put groceries away, and then we could leave from there. I told him I didn't think my husband would appreciate that, and he got angry. I was freaked out at this point, and everyone was still staring. After I rejected his offer, his mood changed so fast. It was like a light switch got flipped, and the compliments turned into nasty insults and curses. Mind you, this guy didn't have a cart or anything in his hand to buy. He was kind of standing off to the side, kind of leaning on one of the drink refrigerator displays. Thankfully, a gentleman who was in an aisle within my sight, who presumably heard the whole thing, came up behind us and asked him if he was in line. Loudmouth said no. The gentleman promptly told him he was being inappropriate, loud, and needed to buzz off. To my surprise, Loudmouth stepped aside and with one final insult and stomped out of the store. I thanked the gentleman and we continued waiting in line, me with an entire week of groceries and him with a bottle of Gatorade. I offered to let him go in front of me and he declined, saying that he wasn't in a rush. It was really like one of those scenes in a movie where the tough guy saves the girl from the jackass. Even so, I was afraid Loudmouth would be waiting outside, so I asked the cashier to call one of her coworkers to walk me to my car. The gentleman insisted that he would be happy to escort me to my car, and I accepted. But as I stood there watching the cashier ring my items, I was overcome by this sick feeling like I was going to vomit everywhere. I decided it was just my nerves, as I have issues with anxiety, and this reaction is pretty normal. It typically passes within a few minutes, once I mentally talk myself down. But for fear of further embarrassment, this time in the form of projectile vomiting in the middle of a grocery store, I hurriedly paid and took a seat on the bench close by. I told the gentleman never mind, and that I was a little freaked out, so I was going to call my husband to come pick me up instead. We'd get the car later, and I didn't care. I just wanted to make it home in one piece. He told me to have a nice day and walked out the door. Hand to God, as soon as he walked out of the building, I felt normal again. So, still blaming my anxiety, I felt sort of silly, but I'd already called my husband, so I stood up and pushed my cart over to the window to watch for my ride just in time to see a chunky white SUV drive by with, freaking wait for it, the gentleman in the passenger seat and Loudmouth in the driver's seat. I about shit myself. What are the effects of being stalked? Once it happens, does it affect you in that way? I was 16, going about life and trying to score well on tests to go to a college of my choice. He was in the class adjacent to mine. I'd never spoken to him. I've only seen him around here and there. When school was about to end, he sent a slam book through a friend for me to write in. I found it very weird because we have had absolutely no contact, and I refused to write in it and told her that I didn't know him, so I wouldn't. On the last day of school, while I'm standing in the parking lot, he and a friend came over and stood in front of me and started saying things and making hand gestures. I don't say anything, so I just walk away as the car arrived. He then started calling up my aunt. I'd given everyone at school her number, and talking to her. It never struck me as excessively odd because she never could remember his name, and she told me it was one of my classmates. He was trying to get into a similar college to mine, so they just talked about that. A year later, a friend calls me and tells me that he came to her house asking information about me. He apparently told her that he liked her so much because she was friends with me. Her dad was at home when it happened, so he told her to inform me. I thought I knew about him, but I didn't. He was apparently also going around my town looking for me and asking other people about me. She told me how he followed me home and that she found this out from someone else, but I had no idea about that either. Then, I remembered all the times he and I were going in the same direction, his vehicle coming behind mine, but I brushed it off thinking that it was because he lived nearby. How very wrong was I? I was 18 and I was coming home for Christmas vacation and saw him on the way to my house. He was with a friend. They started following me. I had to get my passport renewed, so I needed to schedule an appointment. For that, I went to the office, and as I was telling them some personal info, he came in and started to make small talk with one of the men there. I got out after my work there was done. His friend and him were on the other side of the road to where my car was parked. I went home. But it didn't seem like they were following me then. But it doesn't matter really because they already knew where I lived. I checked my phone after I got home and I had a message from an unknown number around the time I was in the office. It was him. He introduced himself in it. I immediately blocked him and he messaged me from another number this time. The message said that his motive wasn't to mess with me and that he never talked to me at school or did anything else because of the same. He would delete my number, everything he had as a reminder of me, and that this would be the last message if I thought so. It ended with him saying that he just wanted me to know that he liked me. I blocked this number as well. I found it very creepy that he had to delete my number and everything he had as a reminder of me, mostly because I don't know how he got my number. We've never interacted for him to have things that remind him of me. I thought I saw him just outside my backyard the next day, but I just rushed inside and locked the doors and didn't dare peek out the window. The next few days, I was looking out the window every now and then, making sure there was no one there. I felt unsafe in my own home. I got back to college when I got a call from an unknown number. Because I'd given my number for official purposes, I don't always know who exactly was calling me, but I still picked up because it could have been more important. It was his friend. He said I had no right to just block him like that, and that I did not know how to respect people. He said the stalker changed after what I had done to him, and that I was ruining his life, and that the stalker did not know that he had called me. He said he didn't want me to be the reason for the ruin of someone else's life, so he was just telling me this. In order to undo the damage I had done, I needed to talk to the stalker. He was very demanding and pushy. I said, no thank you. I genuinely felt afraid and traumatized by that phone call so much that I ran to my friends in tears and told them about it. They told me if it were to happen again, I should just tell him off. For a while, whenever I got phone calls from an unknown number, my heart would start pounding and my hands would start shaking. I was afraid it would be them again. I was 19 when I got a message from an unknown number asking me how my exams were. I didn't know how he knew I had exams then. Maybe he had friends spying on me. I blocked that number as well. I then proceeded to cut off all my school friends because I didn't know he was giving him information about me. I was getting very paranoid, especially when I got a phone call from someone I knew back then. Of course, I didn't pick it up. Then, I got random messages from a few numbers that I again blocked. The reason I didn't change my number was because I had given it in a number of places for official purposes, and it would be a pain to change it from everywhere. I still don't know if he has people spying on me, and I don't know if he is gone for good, but I still feel unsafe and afraid sometimes. No one should have to go through things like this just because someone doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. Getting obsessed with someone to the point of threatening them with your own life is downright horrifying. This is a messed up story with so many details that I'm not sure how to structure it, but I'll do my best. I'll probably forget to add some parts. I'll divide it into chapters, parts, so it will be easier to navigate through. I used to live in Stockholm, Sweden. There, I attended high school and met my then boyfriend, Jack. He will come into play later. I was very active on social media then. I had Gifo back when that was a thing. I used the GIFs to link to my blog to show makeup, hairstyles, etc. For those that don't know what GIFA was, it was basically Instagram, but only for GIFs. Back in the day, I had a pretty large following on that site, but the site had its downsides, particularly the nasty sexual messages you would get often. Part 1. The meeting. Then, this person Robin started following me and was so nice and friendly. I felt genuinely like Robin wished me all the best and made me happy whenever she or he would write. Robin said that he or she was a male, 23 at the time, and was from the US, but that he had Swedish relatives. I thought that was pretty dope, and we could chat a few times a month in English. I also love to sing, and I uploaded covers to YouTube. Robin would be so excited when I released new covers and compliment me, and I'd feel great. It was so nice to have an online friend who seemed very happy for me, though this behavior started to become too much sometimes. It started to feel wrong. Part 2. The flags. Robin then sent me a drawing. He said it was a portrait of me. It was a girl with animal ears, making a cute pose with her hand, piercing green eyes and whiskers. He said it is like me, but mixed with a cat, my favorite animal. I was beyond impressed. It was too cute, and I was flattered that someone would draw me. But that excitement turned to ash in my mouth one night. This is where it all started for real, where the flags should have gone up. I played League of Legends, and one of the favorite champions back then was Ahri, especially in her Foxfire Ahri skin. I was scrolling through Safari on my phone to find a wallpaper of her to have on my phone, and then I see the picture, the fan art Robin made, only that the eyes were now yellow, like Ahri's. I clicked the picture and it linked me to a DeviantArt account. The caption was something like, "Casual cute Foxfire Ahri posted 3 years ago." I wrote to Robin and told him how upset I was that he stole a drawing from an artist, edited the colors a bit, and claimed to have worked hard making it himself. I explained to him how awful it is to take someone else's work and say that you yourself made it. He said he was ashamed and sorry, and said he only wanted to impress me and make me smile. I couldn't stay mad at him for long, but I was wary now. It had been a while since I posted a cover, and Robin made sure as hell I knew it had been a while. He nagged and pled with me to make another one, to the point that I told him to back the flipping burgers off. I posted a cover a few weeks later. Part 3. Too close for comfort. I broke up with Jack, the boyfriend. We went our different ways and it was okay. Robin, on the other hand, was not. He couldn't for the sake of humanity grasp why he had broken up and pleaded yet again. But this time, it was a pleading for me to get back together with my boyfriend. I tolerated this at first because to most people, we seemed perfectly happy together, Jack and I. I got really upset with him because after a few days on end, he would ask if we were getting back, and I just explained that Jack was unfaithful and seeing other girls, flirting with them. The response? "Oh, but you can't forgive him? Not getting back?" I was done. I told him to leave me alone, and he did. Part 4. Found out. It was just like last time, scrolling on the internet, and thought one night when I wanted to listen to others doing the same cover I did. I started scrolling through the list and I see my face on a thumbnail with the caption, "Song name, cover by me." This was not my video, and definitely not my YouTube account. My heart froze. I felt myself grow cold. I clicked and my audio started playing. It was my voice, my picture, but not my name. I clicked the profile and the coldness intensified. Every cover of me, every video of me from my own YouTube, Instagram, friends' YouTube, Jack's YouTube, and SoundCloud was on there. The videos dated back 2 whole years. The account said that her name was Jenny, and that she was the one singing, producing the music. Hell, even going as far as taking videos of my relatives and saying it was her family. I was confused, scared, and angry. Who would do this? I got my answer with the most twisted thing I've experienced online, and the comments to the videos were comments from Robin's account. Robin: thanks so much, Jenny, for dedicating this song to me. Jenny: oh, no bother, Robin. I made it all for you. It was like the stalker was either two stalkers or this person had made up two characters and was talking to him or herself through the comments. This freaked me out big time. I wrote to all my friends whose content was stolen, wrote to my ex and my new boyfriend, now fiance, and told them to help me shut this thing down. The account was shut down within 20 hours. I blocked all accounts linked to Robin, including the Jenny accounts. I locked all social medias, removed everyone I didn't know in real life. I Google image reversed all of my profile pictures and nothing came up. I was paranoid for about a year after this. I didn't trust anyone I didn't know in real life. Part 5. The Aftermath. Robin made new accounts to follow me, which I blocked. I have an official Instagram for work and such which she could be looking at, but it is something I've now just accepted will happen and that I shouldn't live in internet fear because of one person. Just a month ago, I logged into Tumblr because I wanted to see if I had some juicy memes stashed there somewhere. Yeah, I know, cringe. I then saw blocked accounts. Only one blocked. Guess who? Robin had changed the Tumblr blog from his or her, Robin, fakery to something new, something personal. The blog was filled with angst, just like all other Tumblrs. But this one was filled with self-hatred posts, extremism, racism, and long posts written in Swedish. This was the first time it hit me. This person was Swedish. I told my best friend to go through the blog to see if her FBI skills could sniff something out, and she did. I'll combine all evidence that her and I combined know so far. Part 6. The Conclusion. The stalker is probably born in 1989, and he or she lives in the same part of the city as my parents, where I lived before. Gender unsure, seems to depend. The stalker couldn't go to high school with me, but must have known me through something else. Mutual friends or something. He or she stole my account for years, pretended to be my friend to get more content, and is probably still checking in on me. My best guess is that it was a girl who wanted to be me, have my life and my boyfriend. When I stopped creating new content and broke up with Jack, her whole made-up world started to fall apart. If Robin somehow reads this, I hope you'll find acceptance and happiness in yourself, because it is no life living it through someone else. Go in peace. I have to this day still no clue who Robin really is. This is a story that's hard to share, but also it's something I desperately need to get off of my chest. It's a story about learning, the true meaning of naive and deception, a story of destruction and of rebirth. I guess it all started about 3 or 4 years ago when I had been working at my first job for about 2 years. That was the year that I would meet the 2 men that changed my life forever. One for the better and one for the much worse. The restaurant I worked at had been bought out by a big company, so there was a big overhaul in staff and everything else. A whole new set of managers and some new waitstaff as well. One of those men would become my boyfriend 3 years later, and we're still very much in love now. The other? Let's just call him a POS, because I can't even think of his name without getting upset. POS started as a manager at that time. I never took much note of him. He was nice enough and seemed funny. I worked there for a while, getting closer as a friend to my current boyfriend. I then left that job for a good 6 months before returning to it. At this point, most of the staff had changed because of high turnover. I only knew about 3 of the workers, one of which was POS. Flash to about 1 year later, where him and I are okay friends and I'm well into dating my boyfriend. He starts telling me compliments and love bombing me. He constantly found my weak spots and tried to make them better. He always tried to buy me things and get me to work more hours with him. I learned many things about him during this time. I started to notice how very unstable he was. The dots started to connect, and I remembered how many fights he'd gotten into in his defense or for the restaurant. I started thinking about his weapon collection and how off his voice was when he said, "I had you picked out from the moment I met you." In my biggest moment of weakness, when I felt ugly and vulnerable, he made me feel pretty, and I made what I believe is the biggest mistake in my entire life. I listened to him. I sent him pictures that could destroy my relationship. I was naive in believing in all the ways he related to me. He was just a great liar. He even joked to me about his masks and his 9 other personalities. I want to go back and slap myself for not putting it all together faster. The crazed look he got in his eyes sometimes, his breakdowns. So much of it were red flags that I didn't see. He knew how to manipulate me and the people around me. None of it even hit until about a week after I quit that place. Then, one night, out of the blue, he starts messaging me. Things started escalating because I had told him there would never be anything between us the last time I'd seen him. He starts ranting about justice and how he could see through me and my lies. He said I needed to tell my boyfriend about us, or he would. I told him there wasn't an us and that it wasn't his business. He kept insisting that he loved me and that we needed to be together. He couldn't take no for an answer, even though he kept asking and asking for me to tell him it was over. I told him, and he couldn't take it. He kept calling me a crazy bitch and trying to gaslight me. I'm thankful that I was strong enough to believe him and to completely cut him off from my life. Then it got worse. He started talking in third person, calling himself Jack the Ripper, saying he was going to find me and find my boyfriend. I was panicking in my room, crying and throwing up, all while trying to deal with this. I asked him what he wanted, and all he said back was, "You." I've never felt that kind of fear before. I started thinking about how much I love my boyfriend, my amazingly perfect boyfriend who has been with me through everything, and I calmed down. That's when I marched to my boyfriend's room, sit him down and tell him everything, and we talked, and he forgave me. It hurt, and I still haven't completely forgiven myself for hurting him that way, but I'm hoping one day I will. I messaged POS and told him I already told my boyfriend and that he didn't have any more power over me. He then started grasping at straws, threatening my other job where I work with children, even threatening my PlayStation account. He's a genius. He's insane. I called him by his name while he was talking in another personality, and he told me to call him Jack or there would be consequences. I blocked him on everything. I deleted my Facebook. I disconnected myself from everyone who works there, and I spent an entire day speaking to police and the principal of my work. While talking to the police, they told me that soon he'll find someone new to target so I could rest easy. But that didn't make me feel better. I still felt sick because even if he's not fixated on me, that doesn't mean some other poor girl deserves him to do that to her. That experience with the police changed me. What do you do when someone says you have to be with them or he'll kill you and the person you love? I didn't know, and I still don't. I still have nightmares. That Friday, while I was driving home from work, I got pulled over because an anonymous person called in describing my car and license plate, saying I was drunk and on drugs. Wonder who that was. I calmly explained to the officer that I was coming home from work and gave him my case number. I got about 8 calls a day from different random numbers for about 3 days after. Months later, after so much therapy and work, I see him twice in one day. I know his car, so I pretty much get anxious whenever I see the color or make of that car anywhere. One day, my worst fear happened. I was just on my way to a doctor's appointment and my turn was literally one light up. I pull up to a car that is way too familiar to me, and I notice that there is no way for me to escape. He knows my car. My windows aren't well tinted. I see the shadow of his hair move and know it's him, and my stomach rolls. I pull out my phone and call my mom, shaking so badly I had to redial twice. I ended up making 5 different turns to get to the doctor instead of 1, and I parked very hidden. I was very proud of how calm I was when I walked in to my apartment. It was very hard. After my appointment, I meet with my best friend and we go to walk her adorable dogs around her house. This guy knew where we were because my car was right there at my friend's house, and I see a familiar movement from the corner of my eye. I seriously went cold. I see him walking and start to cross the street to the side where we were at. I didn't even say anything. I just dragged the dogs around the corner and kept turning and going until I felt safe. When I explained to my friend what happened, she helped me calm down, and honestly, I'm just very thankful she was there. I am now writing this 7 months later. I'm still undergoing therapy from this, but I have started to do something very important. I've been reclaiming my space and my mind. I have slowly started to reach out to old coworkers from that restaurant, and I even went outside of the restaurant to say hi to managers and servers I used to know. I found out the next day through my good friend that works there that he said he was uncomfortable with me being there. I just laughed. I genuinely laughed really hard, and then I went back for the next 3 days to pick my friend up from there, just to make a point. I haven't been strong enough to go inside yet though. So many of my nightmares are placed there. I can smell it. I can hear the glasses clinking, and it makes me shake. There's a certain shade of blue he wears, and if I see it, it makes me shake. In every dream I have, that color is always lurking in the background. His presence is always felt. There is a big festival that includes that restaurant every year. It's so much fun, and it would be the first year I could go in 4 years because I always worked it. My friend invited me to go, and I was hesitant at first because this is somewhere I knew he would be. But I went. And sure enough, when we passed the restaurant, he was wearing the blue shirt, and instead of seeing him from the corner of my eye, like I had in my dream, I looked him in the face. I got so angry, was just insanely pissed off, and honestly, pretty anxious. I just kept walking and forced myself out of the funk. I will be posting updates if anything more happens. This concludes tonight's stories. While you slumber, remember, you will wake to a brand new day. You will be stronger and a better person, just like a newborn phoenix. Stay bright, for that is the reason we all must go back to ashes. Sleep well, and I look forward to reading to you all again. Please enjoy the next hour and a half of the pure ambience of rain.